Hi, my name is Jonathan Flike, and today I'm going to teach you how to play Weavlings in the Wilds, a puzzly solo card crawler created by me and published by Atomic Automaton. So if you're wondering what is all of this about, well, the legendary Fate Weaver Zadara has put her chubby little Weavlings on a diet, and this has not gone over well with them. It's driven them to the nearby tender wilds in search of delicious meats. Fearing the worst for her weavlings, she has sent you, her trusty weavling trapper, into the wilds in an attempt to bring them home safely.
To set up, remove the trapper card and player aid. This will be the wilds deck. Create a 4x3 grid of face-down cards. These 12 spaces will be the tender wilds. Select a space to place the trapper and discard the card occupying that space. In addition to the current setup, you'll want to give yourself room for a banish pile, lost population, wounds, and lured population. A sample of this can be found in the rulebook, but feel free to arrange this setup in whatever way is most convenient for you. Reveal the face down cards, and that's the setup. You're ready to start your journey. The game is played over multiple turns with 4 phases. Phase 1, the Trapper phase. During the Trapper phase, you'll be using any combination of actions notated on the Trapper card. You may use up to 3 actions per turn. For one action, you may move orthogonally one space on the Tender Wilds by swapping the Trapper with the card in the space you're moving to. For one action, you may collect one trap adjacent to the Trapper and place it in your hand. These can be used at any time during the Trapper phase. You may also collect multiple traps that are adjacent to one another in a continuous line for one action. You cannot break or split the line to collect additional traps. When cards are removed from the Tender Wilds, immediately collapse the cards above in the same column and replace the empty spaces with cards from the Wilds deck face down. During this phase, you may also gain boons from adjacent wild spirits. It does not cost an action to gain or use boons from wild spirits. These go in your hand to be used at any time. Traps will be placed in your hand until you're ready to use them. For one action, you may use a trap you've collected. Any beastie captured by using a trap becomes meat, which is held in your hand until you're ready to use. This meat value can be found here on the card. Phase 2, Lure Weavlings phase. During the Lure Weavlings phase, you will use that hard-earned meat to lure weavlings back home. To do this, pay a weavling's meat cost notated by the meat icon. Once paid, remove the weavling and add it to your lured population. The weavling's population value is notated by the population icon here. Reach a total of 10 and you win the game. One thing to note about luring weavlings from the Tender Wilds is any meat spent above the meat cost will be lost. Now it's time for the Beasties to chomp on some weavlings. Beasties feed on weavlings in order of their speed from lowest to highest. Comparing these 3 beasties, this would feed first, followed by this one, and finally this hungry little wargler. Beasties feed in the direction of their chomp icon and only feed on weavlings. In this example, this Caraxical would feed on these 2 weavlings, and nothing on these spaces since no weavlings are present. Once a beastie feeds, it is considered satiated and is removed from the Tender Wilds along with any unfortunate weavlings. The beastie is discarded, while the weavling is removed from the game as lost population, with their population value counting against you instead of for you, like in the Lure Weavlings phase. If at any time you have a lost population value of 10 or greater, you lose the game. If a beastie is unable to feed, it is unsatiated and remains on the Tender Wilds. Phase 4, Travel phase. During the travel phase, you'll move deeper into the Tender Wilds. To do this, remove all revealed cards from the bottom row and collapse and replenish. The Trapper card and unrevealed cards will not move out of the Tender Wilds. The various card types are affected in different ways when they are pushed out of the Tender Wilds. Beasties are converted into wounds, which is notated on the wound wheel. The value of the wound is the top side value of the card. This will change over the course of the game, but more on that later. Wild spirits are discarded. Weavlings are removed from the game as lost population. Traps are banished from the game. If you ever forget what goes where, this information is available on your handy player aid and of course in the rulebook. Reveal all unrevealed cards and you're ready to begin the next turn. This repeats until the conclusion of the game. Event cards. At some point, you'll run into one of the 3 event cards. The full moon will force you to draw from the Wilds deck until a Caraxicle is drawn. You'll then exchange the full moon with the Caraxicle. The blood moon has the same effect, but with a Vargler. Sunlight will push a row out of the Tender Wilds, forcing more cards out of the game. If this is sounding like you're going to run out of cards at some point, you're right. Once the Wilds deck is exhausted, you'll reshuffle the discard pile, creating a new Wilds deck. All wounds you've collected will rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. The wound value increases to its new topside value. Any future wounds you obtain will orient based on the number of times the discard pile has been reshuffled, or, in other words, every time a new Wilds deck is created. Your lured population is also affected by this. Initially, your Weavlings are happy, as notated by the complete heart in the happiness wheel. When the discard pile is reshuffled and a new Wilds deck is created, all lured Weavlings rotate 90 degrees counterclockwise. The new status on the top side of the card will either remain happy or become unhappy, notated by the broken heart. If the broken heart is topside, you must pay 1 additional meat to keep the Weavling, or it abandons you as lost population. Any future lured Weavlings you obtain will orient based off of the number of times the discard pile has been reshuffled, or in other words, a new Wilds deck was created. If a lured Weavling would orient to an unhappy orientation, it costs 1 additional meat to lure from the Tender Wilds. If you're not able to satisfy this additional cost, the Weavling cannot be lured.
And that's the game. I hope you understand how to play Weavlings in the Wilds now. And in addition to our normal difficulty, there is a hard and a nightmare mode if you're looking for additional challenges. There's also an easy mode if you're having a really rough day and you cannot emotionally tolerate any more dead Weavlings. If you're looking for an in-depth guide on how to use the traps, check out our video on our channel. Other than that, please like and subscribe and put any comments you have in the comment section, or if there's any questions, I will be happy to answer. Thank you and enjoy.